I thought I'd just illustrate my career journey for you. As Rachel said, I did a PhD in molecular microbiology down at Southampton before getting a postdoc, actually still with my research group. Even though I didn't particularly like my supervisor and we didn't particularly get on, I wanted to finish that research project. So I stayed where I was, finished that off, and then moved up to Manchester. And I took a BBSRC postdoc that was in conjunction with AstraZeneca. Because at the time I thought, well, I know I love research. I know I absolutely love research, but I'm thinking I might want to have an industry career as opposed to an academic career. The fact that I'm here today indicates that that thought process wasn't accurate. So I came up and I did that 3-year postdoc. And I still knew I loved research, but I also knew that I didn't want to work in industry. Very similar in the fact that actually I felt it was too restrictive for me and the way I like to learn and develop. After that, then I got what I've written up there as a lecturer position. What it actually in real theory was a 5-year postdoc position. I was very lucky because my boss at the time decided to call it a lectureship, but it actually was a very senior 5-year postdoc. During that time, I actually then started to really understand what it meant to be a lecturer at the university. So I was doing less and less research, more and more people management, more and more business management, more and more administration. So I was doing all of the paper writing, all of the grant writing, all of the budgeting for a really large group while still trying to set up my own group within that process. I suddenly realised that I didn't actually enjoy the job that I'd worked so hard to get, and I was so delighted to get, because I wasn't back in the lab doing the research that I really wanted to do. So during that time, I had to sit down and think, gosh, what do I want to do? What do I enjoy doing? And I was really lucky because we all have to do administrative roles. And one of my administrative roles was to actually start to develop part of a PhD student training program. And I did that, and this is where I first met Kath, because she was doing one of those as well. And I absolutely loved it. And I'd never done teaching before, ever. And so it was the first time I got an opportunity to stand up. It was nervous, and I was very nervous, but I actually really enjoyed doing it. And that's when I decided to take a change in my career. And this is where I was being a bit brave, like Elizabeth said before, and I negotiated with my boss at the time to take a sabbatical, because a job had come up, and it was a 1-year fixed-term job leading and developing the PhD program here at Manchester. So I've put up there administrator, faculty trainer. So it wasn't an academic job, it was actually classed as a professional support staff role, and it was only for a year. So how on earth have I ended up here? Because I thought I was only going to be doing it a year. Well, this is where being brave really can actually pay dividends, because that job turned into what is now a professorship, and as I put on the end, a deputy associate dean. So how did I make that transition? What was important for me? Well, networking and knowing people. So I've never stopped knowing Elizabeth, who I met on one of those first teaching sessions, and she was amazing, and I was there like this on the lectern, and Kath, and all of the other people across the university. So networking and communicating and knowing people has been vitally important. Taking a risk, being that bit brave. So when they offered me the job, the 1-year post, I actually went, because I was thinking, well, do you know what? If I don't get it, I don't mind, because I've still got my 5-year postdoc. So I said, I'll take it as long as you give me 2 years. And I was thinking, who said that? That can't have been me. And so I did. And I spoke to what I thought, well, of 2 very senior colleagues. And I was being a bit ballsy at the time. And they said, OK, yeah, we can't make it permanent, because we'd have to re-advertise, but we'll give it 2 years. Within that first year, they were so impressed with the work that I was doing, it became permanent. So my job has never, ever been advertised. And this is where sometimes we look for adverts and we look for things, whereas actually you can develop and create things. And if you're doing that well, people will recognise, and then all of a sudden funding will come into it, you can attract funding to it, and you can create the job that you want. So I think I've been really lucky that I've gone from this administrator that then they changed me across. Because I was doing so well in that position, they moved me across onto the academic scale again, and I became a teaching fellow. From there, they recognised that actually I was developing and I was getting this national profile, so I became a senior lecturer on the teaching pathway. And then I've just been made professor this year, which I'm delighted and a little bit shocked. And then all of a sudden they asked if I would apply for a deputy associate dean, so I'm now doing all staff development across the faculty, the new faculty, moving forward, in teaching and learning. And that's, for me personally, and for all the people that I'm supporting, actually getting as a postdoc some teaching experience has been really helpful and beneficial for me. And it's important for me, what do you actually want from your career? Can I just get you to turn to the person next to you? Because me, I thought I wanted a research career. I really thought research was my passion. It still is. However, when I went into leading the research, I didn't get as much passion from leading it as I did from doing it. So I wanted to find something else that gave me passion. So actually teaching and leading in teaching gives me more passion. What would give you that passion? Because we've just heard that passion is so important and it will get you jobs. What's your passion? Turn to the person next to you.
Hear the passion.
Can I grab you back? So if you haven't already discovered your passion, today's your day to start to discover it, but with legal boundaries, please. No touching one another.
It might be puppies.
It might be puppies. So just to let you know, I'm a working mum as well. So I've got 2 small kids, and that hasn't stopped me from having an academic career. So having a work-life balance for me is vitally important, and this job has enabled me to do that. And my husband will probably say absolutely not. However, for me personally, taking on this role and my responsibilities in here very much allowed me to have a work-life balance. And that's one of the reasons I took that first career move into teaching. So for me, the things that have helped me, which I thought might help you, if some of these relate, hopefully, understanding what I value and what actually makes me happy. I think you spend so much time in your job, doing your job, that actually it's got to be fundamental to your values and beliefs and what makes you happy. And if it doesn't make you happy, then finding something that does is vitally important for me personally. And it was interesting, while you lot were talking, we were talking as a panel, and we were saying, oh, this is the bit that makes me happy. And so for Kath, it was actually going from research to getting a pot of cream that will make a difference to somebody. And for me, it was seeing a light bulb turn on for somebody. What I found really helpful is having mentors and champions. And by that, I always tell people you've got to get yourself a mentor, somebody to talk to that you can actually talk things through, who's not your PI, who's not got a vested interest in you staying doing what you're doing. So therefore, I would always suggest having more than one mentor, and currently I've got 4, which is a bit greedy, I know, but then I go and speak to them about different things. So I still use my PI and my boss, but I wouldn't necessarily tell them stuff that I would tell people outside of this organisation as well. So don't be afraid to use your networks and get as many mentors to help you as you need. Writing a good application or a CV is vitally important. So now when I'm more senior, I'm doing a lot of recruitment for the university, and this is where sometimes I'm the only woman on the panel, which is great because I actually are looking for specific things. But I'm always surprised at how many people don't write an application or a CV well. So linking and evidencing against the essential and desirable criteria, bringing that passion into how you've written what you're writing. And the most important thing as a recruiter, why do you want my job? I know you want a job, but you need to convince me that you want mine. And that's vital. If you can get that in your application, you are going to be interviewed. And also, do a bit of research. Knowing people, getting those connections together. And for me, LinkedIn has been really helpful to enable me to develop those networks that have helped me with my career and moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy. So we've got 5 minutes now before lunch. General questions or questions for Judy?
Thank you, Judy. So can you tell me, how have you made the most out of LinkedIn?
So for me personally, I'm not a big techie person. I did my PhD before the internet was invented. So I'm not the best techie person. But what I've done through LinkedIn, it's allowed me to link with people around the world so that when I've done publications, and this is where some of my publications aren't research journal publications, so that I've written for the popular press. And therefore people have linked with me through LinkedIn and they've endorsed some of my skills so that when employers or when people are looking, then I've got this big bank of people who I'm communicating with, I'm getting knowledge and information from, and they're also endorsing me.
Other questions for Judy or again, generally for fun?
Thanks, Judy. My question is, a lot of people talk about sort of moving around from place to place, but also I think it can be good to stay in one place for a long time and build up links and reputation there. I just wondered if you've got any views on how long to stay somewhere or whether, yeah.
I think it depends where you are in your career and your life. So for me now, having kids, I don't really want to move now because they're at school and I've got them settled. I came to Manchester in 1999 and I've not moved since, but my career has moved quite a lot in that time. I don't think, sometimes we're told we have to move to develop our career, and I think you gave a really nice example of actually what we need to do is move our thoughts and move our research so that if we're actually, and I sit on faculty promotion panel, so I look at actually how people make the transition up from level 6 to level 7 to lecturer to senior lecturer to professor. And the difference I see is demonstrating that independence, demonstrating that research independence. So you're no longer specifically working maybe with one key individual who was your PI, but you've demonstrated that you've actually got this network of researchers that you're working with and that you're PI in some of those and that you're actually driving forward your research. So for me personally, I don't think you actually have to move, but it doesn't harm your career if you do move. Actually, you can, if you move, you can find that your career moves quicker because being recruited somewhere is much easier to get promoted in that prospect than it is to be promoted within. And that's my experience.
And when will we see you or hear you on Life Scientific?
Radio 4, she's an avid listener. Other general questions for the panel? Claudia.
Yeah, Judy, if you can reveal the secret of the work-life balance apart from the 50-50 pact you have signed with your husband.
Okay, so I did not have a work-life balance when I was in the lab, and so then I would be very often in the lab still 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I could not stop. And it was fine when I didn't have kids, and my husband had a late job, and we used to feel quite continental and have a late supper. I then took a very conscious decision that I wanted to start a family, and in that process, because I wanted to do that, and I could see that I could not leave my kids in childcare till 10 o'clock at night, that I had to make a conscious decision. So because I actually wanted to change my working pattern, and it goes back to something Kath said here about I'm very good at collecting things. I'm not so good, and I haven't learned that letting go, which makes me smile because I don't think she has as well. However, I decided with the role that I took on as PGR trainer that actually I could do that role really easily within a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday job. So when I set out at the very beginning, had the mindset of this is a job and this is a 9 to 5 job. So if I can't do it within that time, then I've actually got to let go of some bits and realise it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be good enough. And I don't know how many of in the room are going to admit that they have slight perfectionist tendencies. Yeah, a few of us. And so it's very hard when you've set the bar up here to start bringing it down. But then I thought, well, actually, I need to, because actually I'm having a family. I need to get into those habits. And having the children, and they're very good at bringing me home and normalising me and saying, Mummy, put that down. So that for me has been helpful. But actually, I think the key thing is that I wanted to change it. And I think I've been on lots of time management courses, and they tell you all of the things, but actually, if I didn't want to change, I'd never put them into practice. It was only because I actually wanted to change that then I really did start putting them into practice. Does that help?